Good afternoon, Vimal. A warm welcome to you on behalf of APAC News Network. APAC News Network is a media organization. We're headquartered out of Noida, and we have offices in Hyderabad and outside India in Singapore, Malaysia, and Dubai. Primarily till now, our strength and focus has been on the government sector, healthcare, and education. Primarily, in fact, last 1 year, we are the only B2B media who even hosted Prime Minister Modi in an event. And in our different community programs, we are connected with all the secretaries, both central and state level hospitals, universities, colleges. Now we are enhancing the focus on enterprise, IT, and BFSI with the aim so that we can cross leverage mutually with our traditional strength in government, healthcare, and education. So, primarily today, what we would like to focus on is maybe if you can start with the genesis of Snowflake. Then precisely would like to talk about the update on the solutions, and the services that are available in the portfolio. Then I'd like to understand the dynamics of the operating and the business model with the OTT players that you work with. How do the things work? Then, with similar competitors, what are your differentiators over your similar competitors? Within OTT, what sort of use cases would you be having? And we can take up specific areas from there. So maybe first, the best would be if you can start with the genesis of Snowflake, and then we'll take up.
First up, Rajneesh, thank you so much. I'm really honored to be here as part of this interview. And thank you so much for giving me the time and the opportunity to talk about Snowflake. Great question. And I'd like to, tell you that Snowflake was founded in 2012. And one of the key things our two co-founders really wanted to do was revolutionize the way customers, access data, consume data, and truly democratize data within an organization. And what they also wanted to do was build a solution which was truly purpose built from the ground up to take advantage of the power of the public cloud. When we say the power of the public cloud, we're talking about near instant elasticity, pretty much unlimited scalability and expansion on demand, pricing model which is truly pay as you go. And finally, the complexities of managing your own infrastructure goes away in the public cloud, where you really are focused on deriving outcomes, and then truly build a data platform and something which was unprecedented before, a radically new architecture. And that was predominantly the genesis behind the forming of Snowflake. And we went live in the month in 2015. We found a few customers, and in the next 6 years that we've been in operations, we have more than 4,800 customers globally. And this has been the testament and the success and the power of Snowflake that we've seen in every market that we've entered. We started off, of course, being headquartered in California, in San Mateo. And then we're also, we've expanded to Europe, Middle East, Australia, New Zealand, Japan, Southeast Asia, and Singapore, and of course in India as well. We've seen many customers across many verticals really adopt Snowflake and really enjoy using Snowflake within their organization. So this was truly where Snowflake was founded, with a clear intent to make consumption of data really easy for organizations and truly at scale.
So, in sync with that, what would be the precisely the solutions and services that you are currently offering to your customers?
Great question. What we do is we have a single platform which can cater to multiple different use cases of customers. So Snowflake is a very easy solution. We make it really easy for customers to start consuming data at scale and making all sorts of insights with their data, and not only with their own organization's data, but we also help customers federate data, which means they can now start sharing data with external suppliers or customers or partners. And they can also consume data from the Snowflake data marketplace, for example, where we have more than 500 data providers today, where they can now mix and match data sets from external parties with their own data sets to make analysis a lot more richer and a lot more robust. And I think from where we are from a competitive differentiation standpoint, we're a single platform which can govern to various different use cases. Could be a data warehousing use case, could be a data lake use case. Customers can run a lot of data science operations on Snowflake. We help customers build very, very robust data engineering pipelines. And definitely, we've seen a lot of customers build data applications on top of Snowflake because we're very, very, very fast and we perform really well. And finally, of course, from a data sharing and data exchange standpoint, how do customers now collaborate with external parties or within different departments in an organization? How can they make the best of sharing the data? So this has been, and it's a single platform. It's not like we have different solutions for different needs. It's a single platform which enables multiple different use cases.
Okay, so this brings to the question is one, as a cloud-based platform which you are offering, would you be working? Is it the cloud provider agnostic? So what I mean is, would it work with AWS, Azure, or even the GCP or the other clouds also? That is one. Second is in terms of you are saying now typically the way an organization is today consuming the cloud also, they will have apps. Some apps maybe will be working on a public cloud. Some will work on a private cloud. There will be certain applications on the edge maybe. So when you are providing a platform to an enterprise, this multi-cloud scenario and different applications. So how is that synchronization possible on your platform? So these are the two parts.
Fantastic question. Amazing question, Rajneesh. We get this a lot from so many of our customers globally and in India as well. To answer your first question, absolutely. Snowflake is multi cloud. Globally, we are available on AWS, Microsoft Azure, and GCP. So it's the exact same service that customers can enjoy across different cloud platforms. And not only are we available all across the three major public clouds, we also support cross cloud replication, which means we have some customers who run one instance of Snowflake on AWS, and they also run an instance of Snowflake on Microsoft Azure, and it can seamlessly replicate between the two instances without any issue. It's that simple to use. So we are multi-cloud. In India, as of today, we are only available on AWS because that's where we launched. And in terms of the multi-cloud approach of Snowflake, I think in many, many markets that we are in, we are definitely multi-cloud. And to answer your second question, fantastic question, right? And it's the reality that today there are a lot of customers with applications, like you rightly said, in their own private data center, for example. You could have customers having some kind of a hybrid approach as well. Snowflake is only available on these three major public cloud platforms. For us, we become the destination for all the data that is generated within an organization. So we really help customers, even though they might have applications on prem. There are many, many ways in which we can extract the data and ingest it within Snowflake on the cloud service platform of the customer's choice. And then we can start making a lot of intelligent decisions around that data that we ingest. Now we've seen this data silos in so many different customers. Some applications running on their private data center, some applications which are possibly hybrid, some applications which are even SaaS applications on the public cloud. We can actually ingest data from various different sources into Snowflake without any challenge, because we work beautifully within a data ecosystem. We work with leading data ingestion providers. We work very, very closely with you know uh, folks who can actually ingest data in near real time. So we work with many, many people to complete that entire data ecosystem. If that answers your question, Rajneesh.
That's perfectly what I was looking for. Two other things. One, as you are mentioning, you are ingesting data, and these will be for customers, or the enterprise customers will be coming from multiple sources, multiple disparate sources, if I may say. So, one, the Snowflake platform, how does it ensure some sort of standardization of this data coming from disparate sources? Because otherwise, whatever analytics you use, you would not gain very meaningful insights unless there is some sort of standardization. So one is, how does your platform ensure that standardization? And the second part is, obviously a very critical aspect is the security aspect. So how do you take care of that security part?
So fantastic questions again. So from a standardization standpoint, Snowflake is built on completely standards like ANSI SQL. So we are completely built, it's ANSI SQL. So anyone who has any understanding of SQL can work completely with Snowflake. We also work with many data sources which are semi-structured in nature. So semi-structured data could be JSON, Parquet, Avro, XML, what have you. We can natively ingest semi-structured data as well, and we're seeing that proliferating today from various different industries, and how important it's for customers to not only look at structured data sets but also semi-structured and now potentially unstructured data. And this becomes a key differentiator for Snowflake, where we can natively ingest pretty much any format of data at any scale. We have a few customers who can start with a few gigabytes of data. We also have some customers who will be in multiple petabytes of data all on the same platform. So that's truly the flexibility and the near infinite scalability that Snowflake provides. Now, to answer your second question, which is one of the most important questions I get asked, right? That how is Snowflake secure? How do you manage security? Security in Snowflake is not an afterthought. It was built from the grounds up, from the day the solution was designed and developed by our founders. We have customer references in some of the most regulated industries like financial services, to the likes of Capital One Bank, for example. We have the likes of retail customers like Sainsbury's who are using Snowflake at scale. We have, in India, we have customers like Swiggy, for example. We have customers like Khatabook, which is a great fintech platform. We have customers like Epify or Fi Money, which is a neo bank in India, who are already customers of Snowflake. Freight Tiger, for example, which is one of the logistics leaders in India. All of these companies today are using Snowflake. So we take security very, very seriously. We have multiple different ways in which we can secure a customer data. To name a few things like role-based access control, data being encrypted always at flight or at rest. We give a few customers, if they really want, the option to bring their own encryption keys, for example. We are absolutely cognizant of the fact that security is a very important conversation, and this is something we will continue to do and attract very highly regulated customers like healthcare. McKesson is one very large use case customer for Snowflake. So we have customers in the government space, financial services, media, entertainment, telecommunications, financial services, retail, and many more, who are very sensitive about the kind of data they put on our platform. And we take this responsibility very, very seriously. Security is extremely important for us. Hope that answers your
Um,
question as well.
Yeah, just a little bit clarification on this. You touched upon, within security, the regulatory compliances are one critical aspect. So some of the industries that you talked about, banks or the healthcare, they will have one standard. Obviously, some of the standards are global, some of the standards are very geography specific, and many of these entities are working in multiple geographies and today's business. So basically, you have to sort of work with all the compliances in the geography. So how is the Snowflake platform ensuring compliance with these multiple compliances in multiple geographies?
Again, great question. To give you some examples, we are, for example, from a financial services standpoint, we are PCI DSS compliant. From a healthcare point of view, we are HIPAA compliant as well. So there's many different certifications, and we're happy to share some of these uh, great testimonials from a security certification with you. Post this interview for your reference. So there's many different standards that we comply to. I think we'll fall short of time if I go into all of them. But whether it's government certifications, whether it's financial services certification, whether it's certain regulations in the healthcare industry, we comply to pretty much the most of the major ones. Now there are very specific local regulations which I may not be aware of. I'm sorry, I won't be able to comment on that, if that is the question. But at a broad level, we have a whole range of certifications that we've got, and adherence to standards at a global level for sure. And that's the testimonial which speaks for us, from our customers who are constantly new customers are constantly coming onto our platform in these various different verticals as well.
Okay, thank you. Another very pertinent and critical point is how the situation has been there for the last 1.5 year.
Yeah,
Post the pandemic, the maybe the largest influence has been people working from home or working from anywhere. So
yeah.
what that translates into is a lot of heterogeneous systems and heterogeneous networks have come into the system. uh, what that also meant was the workloads, the pattern of workloads have undergone a change. What was there in the pre-pandemic days, the pattern of workload. So as a platform, especially working on the cloud, like Snowflake, how have you managed this change in workload patterns and sort of seamlessly transferred the operations of your enterprise clients from the pre-pandemic to the current situation?
Thanks for that question, Rajneesh. To answer that in a nutshell, like I told you, Snowflake was built in 2012 to take advantage of the public cloud from the grounds up. So we weren't a legacy architecture which was then ported to the public cloud. We built our solution from day one to take advantage of the public cloud. And what that really helped us in the unfortunate pandemic for the last year and a half is that, one, extremely sad to see such loss of life, and the kind of heartache that we've seen across so many families in various countries in the world. What it also did from a digital disruption standpoint was we saw an accelerated cloud adoption by several years in the last year as well. And in India as well, enterprises of all sizes, they fast track their decisions to shun legacy, their own infrastructure or own data centers, for example, and move their operations, whether in part or in full, to completely cloud-based solutions, right? Now, where that really enabled these customers to become more agile, to have access to applications from wherever they are. Even if they're sitting at home, they always had access to certain, all their key applications, the key data that they needed to do to run their business. And to give you an example from a banking standpoint, right, in the pandemic, when everyone was stuck at home, all banks became digital banks. Every channel which a customer interacted with the bank was digital in nature. So people could not go to a branch, for example. All their interactions was done online or mobile phones, or or voice calling or things like that. Every action which a customer did with a bank was digital. So digital disruption was truly, it was there immediately to be seen. It happened in healthcare with telemedicine, for example, where you could do consultation on video calls, for example, because you couldn't go and meet your doctor. So it had a lot of disruption. And where we saw a lot of adoption for Snowflake in the last 1 year is also when customers wanted to make data driven decisions. They found Snowflake to be extremely easy to use. They found adopting Snowflake very, very simple to use, highly secure. And some of these customers that I just mentioned are using Snowflake at scale today. And this is, I think, the testament to the robustness, the ease of use of the platform, and how important it is for customers to draw outcomes using Snowflake today.
No, that's great to know. So now coming specifically more to India. You earlier indicated about Swiggy and the other customers. Two things. First, specifically, how many Indian customers are there, and whoever are the referenceable one, and more specifically, which are the verticals that you are targeting, and what sort of use cases are happening there?
Great question. So we have a number of customers in India, Rajneesh. I wouldn't be able to share the exact count, of course, but in terms of referenceable customers, I have given you quite an exhaustive list of customer references already in India who are we are authorized to even talk about them. And if I miss something, my marketing team can certainly share those with you post this conversation. In terms of the industries that we are going after, it would typically be all the major industries, right? Whether financial services, healthcare, retail, manufacturing, uh, the digital natives, as we call them, the born in the cloud digital startups who don't have any legacy infrastructure, the likes of, let's say, the Swiggies or the Freight Tigers, for example, and also some very key government accounts as well, which are cloud ready and looking for disruption right there. So I wouldn't say we are focused on a particular vertical, but we're we are focused on customers who want to use data as a differentiated advantage for them, who want to make better decisions using data, and truly want to democratize data within their organization, whichever vertical it is. As long as the customer, they understand the true value of data, which is an untapped asset in many organizations today, we want to go out there and help them and give them the assurance that we are here to help, not only from a scalability or an elasticity standpoint, but also from a security as well as a ease of use, and ensuring that it becomes very easy for them to adopt Snowflake.
That's perfect. What is the go-to-market strategy that you follow? What sort of initiatives? Since, as you're saying, you are across verticals, so what are these go-to-market channels that Snowflake has, and more in the Indian context?
Sure. So I'll give you the Indian context, right? So obviously there are customer engagements many times where we work closely directly with the customers, but we're also heavily dependent, and we also, take pride in the fact that we have many Snowflake partners and the channel ecosystem for us in the Indian market. These are some of the best channel partners that we've seen. They could be, large systems integrators or global systems integrators. They could be consulting organizations. They could be regional systems integrators who are very specifically focused around everything data. So they come with a wealth of experience around data. How do customers ingest data at scale? So building very robust engineering pipelines. How do they re-architect the entire visualization layer? And how does Snowflake sort of fit the entire piece together and offer an end-to-end, differentiated solution to the customer, which is based on customer outcomes at the end of the day. And then finally, the go-to-market also is heavily dependent on what kind of customers we are targeting. Every sector, for example, might have a different sales cycle. A bank would not typically follow the same sales cycle as, let's say, a gaming company. So each customer is unique and different. So one of the key things I keep telling everybody in many of my interactions is that keep the customer at the heart of every conversation. One must be focused on what the customer outcomes and what the customer is trying to do, and then try and go and see how we can sort of, fix that puzzle together. And the partners that we work with definitely help us in augmenting and bringing a lot of the subject matter expertise and then stitching the entire ecosystem together, if that answers your question, Rajneesh.
Can you elaborate a little more on exactly this channel structure in terms of how many partners are there, what's the structure that you follow, and how do they approach the customers?
So we have a number of partners in India. I won't be able to get into the exact details of how many partners we have, but we have a good number of partners in India, and each one of them comes with their own expertise in certain either verticals or certain domains or certain parts of the entire ecosystem. And we want to onboard a lot more of such partners, because the market in India, definitely, as I told you, every sector that we are talking to has definitely seen the need for data. The scene has seen the need for using data for making better decisions, for democratizing data within their organizations, to ensure that anyone in an organization today should be data driven, whether it's a simple business analyst or the CEO. So we do have, definitely outreach programs for increasing our channel ecosystem base, and we will constantly keep investing in our channel partners, because we do believe they are our extended arm. They will go out there and help us win more customers in the Indian market.
Another thing is, you mentioned about that you have some government accounts also. And when you are talking about the standard go-to-market, we know the government accounts work differently. One, if you can indicate what sort of government accounts are your clients, whether they are the central or the state departments, or are they the smart cities, or are these PSUs? What sort of government accounts are these?
So when I said government, I'm not necessarily saying that government in India are already customers of Snowflake. What I meant was, globally, we do see a lot of governments who are starting to adopt Snowflake at scale, and we hope to replicate that success in the Indian market in the times to come. So that's literally what I meant. I'm not saying in any way that, we have any government customers or anything of that sort. What I do want to say is, we want to replicate the success of what we have done globally in the government space for Snowflake in India. And where we a starting point of that, like you rightly said, would be which are the government agencies or public sector undertakings who definitely see data as a key differentiated asset for them within the organization, and whether they want to leverage the harness the power of the public cloud, for example. And if those are the agencies who see that differentiated advantage, we'd be more than happy to engage with a lot of these agencies as well.
Okay. Thanks. Got that. And another part which I wanted to understand was in terms of the since the resources, the internal manpower resources, because since there's so much of ingestion of data that you mentioned, so you would need data scientists and data analysts and more of the apart from the standard architects and the programmers. That's so. How is Snowflake, and again specifically more for India? I'm talking about in terms of resources, and our manpower resources in India also handling some of the global clients. So how is it?
So if I can try and understand the question, Rajneesh, what you're in effect asking is in terms of the resources in India, are they handling global projects? If you could please rephrase the question.
Yeah, sure. What I meant was the one I wanted to know about the manpower resources in India, and out of that manpower resources, how much of it's engaged for the India business per se, and how much of them are for the more the support and development functions for the global business.
Oh, great question, right? So from my perspective, I lead the entire sales team for India. So our market and our focus is entirely for customers who are based in India. We do have a support team who sits and services APAC customers from a product support standpoint. We have a shared services office in Pune where we do a lot of engineering and security and application work as well. So those are different centers, but from our team standpoint, it's the sales team in India. The go to market is for Indian customers who want to adopt Snowflake at scale for any kind of vertical.
So would that includes it now? There are a lot of MNCs who will have an Indian entity for their business, and they might not be since you are heading the India sales. So those clients might not have been acquired by the India sales team, but would you be addressing? So how would it be addressed in India?
So these are internal, right? So from our standpoint, I would not be in a position to comment on the exact GTM for certain verticals because a lot of things are internal to Snowflake. So all I can tell you is, we look at a customer from a global standpoint, and whatever the customer needs from a Snowflake standpoint, we are there to help them with.
Okay, and in terms of the manpower resources in India, so can you give us some numbers in terms of how many people and what sort of activities they are involved in?
Sure. So we don't disclose the employee numbers for Snowflake at all. So globally, of course, there are global numbers available, which is publicly there as well. But we don't bifurcate into employee numbers per region as per policy. But what I can tell you is India is a very important market for Snowflake from going after different verticals to understand whether it's media entertainment, whether it is healthcare, whether it is telecommunications, financial services. And we will continue to be in the market for many years, where we want to go up and ensure a lot of these customers become referenceable customers for us.
Okay, um, that's great to know. Now, a little bit of looking ahead, if we may say, for the next maybe 4 to 5 quarters. So, what are going to be the focus areas? And I'm mentioning focus areas that can be in terms of product or solutions, or in terms of features. Yeah, India specific, you mentioned that you would work with Azure platform also. Similarly, it can be other geographical expansion or business wise expansion. So, what are these key initiatives that are planned?
So in terms of GTM, I can talk from the India context for sure because I can't talk from a global perspective. There's my CEO and CFO who talk about that all the time. But from an India context, the only main thing that we're looking for is customer first. What are the customers trying to do? What are they trying to do to accelerate digital transformation within their organization. How can Snowflake play a role in that? How do we work with our extended and ecosystem and help those customers achieve those outcomes? So that's definitely priority number one. Growth investments will all follow as long as we understand the customer. So obviously keeping them at the heart of any conversation is the most important. Once we understand the customers, and let's say across multiple different verticals, we can then prioritize and strategize on which verticals require certain kinds of investment, and we're happy to make them. And finally, when we understand the broader scope of which sort of vertical is growing really fast for whatever reason, right, we can then accelerate certain go to market in those verticals. And for those verticals we can have specific programs, for example, but those are definitely internal to us, and we do have a review very very often around what are those verticals which are very important for us.
So, has some sort of this identification exercise been completed, and have you sort of identified any focus target areas which you will go?
Like I said, so we are definitely considering pretty much every vertical as an important one. Like I mentioned to you, financial services, media entertainment, healthcare, retail, manufacturing, digital startups, digital natives, and some governments as government agencies as well. So these would definitely remain the key focus areas for Snowflake. Now within them, what percentage of growth are we looking for? Obviously I'm not in a position to comment on that, but each one of these verticals is important for us. And as long as, like I said, the customers understand how data can be a very key asset for them in decision making, we are there to help.
And how many, again, since you're heading the India context, there are still a lot of Indian enterprises where many of the applications are still on prem. Though the pandemic might have changed in certain cases, but still on prem. And this migration of these existing legacy applications to cloud, sort of how does the Snowflake platform help some of these on-prem applications of enterprise move towards the cloud?
So like I said, Rajneesh, even earlier, even if customers today have some applications on premise and Snowflake is on the public cloud, we can absolutely ingest data from these various data sources into Snowflake using multiple mechanisms, and we're doing that for so many customers globally. Customers moving to cloud is one part of a journey. We can still work with customers who have a hybrid ecosystem where one data silo could be on premise, one could be, let's say, a sort of a hybrid model, and one could be a fully public cloud model. We can ingest data from various different sources into our platform and at scale as well. So one is lift and shift when it comes from on-prem to cloud. It doesn't mean that without that we can't operate. Absolutely, we work with customers who certain applications cannot move to the cloud, for example, for various different reasons, on architectures or for regulatory reasons or security reasons. From their perspective, we can still work with those customers because we can take that data into the Snowflake platform without any problem.
Got that? And it was a pleasure hosting you.
Pleasure is all mine, Rajneesh. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.